Welcome to Photology, episode 1. I'm Vahagn. This is Vahagraphy, and you are?
My name is Joe. Welcome to all of our viewers tuning in from all over the globe. You're making history today. It's our first episode. Vahagn, what is up?
What's up, brother? Nothing much, man. This is the first episode of Photology, not biology, not chemistry, Photology.
Well, that's good because I was an art major in school, so science is not my forte, but talking photography on a Tuesday evening, what more? Or it's a Wednesday. Tuesday, Wednesday, I don't know. Weekday, some sort of day. It's always a great time to talk about photography. 100%.
Yeah, we're going to rock it, man. We're going to effing kick some ass today because
yeah.
this whole thing, I mean, we're going to have a good time doing this. And as being our first episode, we're going to talk about a few things when it comes to photography, So a few major news items that are in the news for photographers. And then I want to get into something a little crazy and probably controversial for some. Have you ever been duped as a photographer by a client? That's what we're going to get into. I'm sure you have a couple of stories you want to tell.
Oh, yeah. Always got a couple loaded in the barrel, Vahagn. Always.
All right. So, by the way, introduce yourself, Joe. Where are you from? YouTube channel? This and that.
Let's do it. Let's do it. So my name's Joe. I am Canadian. I live in Canada. Alberta, more specifically. My channel dives a lot into gear reviews, real-world applications of F-mount glass mounted on the Z6 system. Just kind of varies. Talking about the news, I always try to balance it between news-based videos as well as ones that are more fun vlogs, things that I enjoy doing, drone flying, all that good stuff. I think it's one of those tricky things when you're growing a channel, creating content that people are going to engage with, but then also creating content you're going to enjoy making, right? So I recently put out this dog sled video, the one behind me. And, it's not going to blow up on YouTube by any means, but it was a ton of fun to make. And, it's a good time.
That's a cool video you did, bro. I like
Thanks,
it.
I appreciate that.
I'm very jealous of your surroundings. I like it, So you're north of us. You're our, border brother, Canadian brother here.
Just above Montana.
And your YouTube channel is Joe Man's Land. Cool, man. Well, I'm Vahagn. I have a YouTube channel called Vahagraphy. Talk about all things photography. I'm a wedding and portrait photographer trade, but I love all types of photography. I love gear. I love the business and the art of photography. I talk about all that in my channel. So yeah, if this is your first time, encountering us, that's who we are. Joe Man's Land on YouTube and Vahagraphy on YouTube. All right. So let's get into some news items, photography news that was relevant these couple of weeks. I mean, the Z8, the Nikon Z8 talk is getting crazy. It's getting hot, man. As Nikon Nikon shooters, we're Nikon shooters, so this is a welcoming sight. I've always looked out for that Z8, and I knew it was coming out. I put a story up about a year ago about the camera, and everybody thought I was crazy on YouTube. But now it's almost reality,
Yeah, we're at the 2-yard line, Vahagn. We're getting close. They need to punch it in the end zone and give us something.
Yeah. Latest rumors, or Nikon rumors, the latest news piece is that the size of the camera is going to be bigger than our Z6 and Z7, which is cool. Right?
Yeah, no, it's an interesting form factor. They were comparing it to a D850, right?
Yeah, D850, but it's going to be slimmer than that. So
yeah, it's like as tall as a D850, but as thin as like a Z7. I think the article was saying.
Yeah, if it's under $3 or $4 grand, man, that if that different thing is under $4 grand, I think they're going to hit a home run. I think they're going to hit a home run with that thing. We're at, what are we at? The Z7 II is what? How much is the Z7 II? Around 20, 24,
8,
24,
5 maybe.
25, around there, 25 to 2600
Yeah.
bucks.
Right, I'm thinking
So,
in Canadian pesos, so I gotta get the USD in my brain. I'm thinking like Canadian dollars is probably closer to like 3,000 for all of our knuckleheads who have tuned in.
so the Z6 comes around 2 grand. The Z6 II. Man, what do you think it is, bro? You got a Z6 II, right? Or Z6 one?
I got a Z6-1 right. You see me through it right now is a Z6-1. I've got one
This
camera for everything.
this is a Z6 one as well.
Nice. It looks tight. Yeah,
We got.
let's see our autofocus. Yeah, with the FTZ2 adapter.
I got no adapter, homie. This is a 35Z, bro. And
Ooh, the
anybody that talks shit about the 35Z, look it's at 1.8 right now, right? But look how
Yeah.
clear this. Look at that. Look at the focus, how smooth it is. Look at
Yeah.
that.
I don't know if I got that. I got the 17 to 35 2.8 GED on. It's like honestly not too bad. It's like
that's pretty good. You see how yours just goes boom fast? I think you can
I
set that in
adjusted
the
it.
settings. Yeah.
Yeah, I switched it because I was doing that dog shoot and I just needed it to be a little snappier, so I just put the motors up as fast as they could go and
Watch.
lens just goes. Whoop.
Look how close look how close it focuses. Look at that. And like no focus breathing. Watch. Look at that. Look at the corners when it comes back. A little bit.
Yeah,
You got
it's
a little bit. A little bit. Okay, fine. There you go. So yeah, the Z6-1. You got the Z6-1. I have two Z6-1s, which that's a Z6-1 as well. I really didn't had need to upgrade, man. I really didn't need the Z6 II. I mean, the the one card slot really didn't bother me.
Agreed. I don't know. I looked at the Z6 II. Like, I think on paper it's great, but correct me if I'm wrong. But like, even when you're shooting 4K 60, isn't that with a crop?
I think so. I don't own that camera, but I think it is. But
yeah, that was kind of what dissuaded me.
But the 4K 30 is not, right?
No, 4K 30. It's like this camera, right, where it's full frame. But I don't know. I was just kind of looking at it.
So what do you get? You get an extra card slot. You get a faster processor, dual processors. What else do you get? You get like a couple of other features, right? Faster.
I don't even think it does 10-bit though.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't do 10-bit.
Yeah,
that's what that's what guys are looking forward to, man. Like on the new tech, all these guys that are just looking forward to that new camera. I think it's gonna be a hit. And then when you think the Z8's gonna be something, when that tech, comes down to the newer, less expensive cameras, we're talking Nikon's gonna be rocking, man. We're talking something big, huge, so
100%. No, if they could, I mean, yeah, Z8 I think is going to be a beast, but I think once they filter down some of those autofocus and sensor specs into the Z6 III, ideally, I think that's where they're going to really hit their sweet spot, because I feel like there's a gap right now in the prosumer market. I know guys that shoot Canon, and I don't know, they just like the R6 IIs, that whole R6 lineup, they don't mind it, but they don't love it. And I've shot with R6 II, and I don't know, like the autofocus is great. I'll give it that for sure, but the image quality wasn't great. The files are really hard to work with, at least for video. I find like the codec is just awful. I've used it on Resolve. I've used it on DaVinci.
Watch out, man.
DaVinci as well as Final Cut. Yeah,
watch out, man. You're gonna have a lot of Canon guys on your
ass.
Yeah,
it's all good. Let them come. It's okay.
Come on your ass right now, bro.
Yeah. My blurry Nikon footage always renders perfectly.
Hey, hey, no. With my take on that is like all these cameras are good. I mean, it's a matter of preference with image quality. But I know what you're saying about file size. I haven't played with the new R system yet that much, so honestly, guys, I don't want to really comment on it because I haven't played with it. So I'm not going to comment on it. I'm going to stay silent on that. But
hey, no death threats, please.
Yeah, some of these specs, man. Z8, the hybrid. Let's see, improved EVF. They're saying 9 megapixel EVF. That's insane. Obviously, improved autofocus is what people are like, waiting for. Uh, Same sensor as the Z9, and this is all rumored. This is all rumored, guys. But can you imagine same sensor as the Nikon Z9? Does that mean that the Z8 is gonna have no shutter? That's crazy.
Yeah, that'd be awesome, especially for that price. I feel like it's going to get a lot of people.
Yeah, that's nuts, man. Stacked. Well, we're gonna get a stacked sensor. Well, obviously, if it's the same sensor as a Z9, it's got to be stacked sensor for $3,800. I mean, the watch the pre-orders go out of control for this thing. Like this is gonna be a waiting list like you've never seen. It's gonna be huge.
It's
You
going to
know,
be crazy.
yeah.
I don't know. I'm really excited about it. I think they're going to hit a market that they haven't hit in a few years, and I think a lot of folks are going to be pretty excited.
Here's the thing, though. I don't know about the battery. Well, on a Z6, these batteries they do okay. They're not bad. They're not good. They're not excellent. They're good. They run me about on 4K. They run me probably about an hour and like probably an hour and a half max video shooting on the ENEL 15s. But we're talking about a new sensor. We're talking about a new, 8K, all this new tech. I wonder if
Old
they're making
juice.
that. I wonder if they're making that camera more efficient.
I think they'd have to, because I mean, like my Z6, I find the battery's not bad, but if I was to imagine them ramming anything higher res or anything that requires more computing power into it, I don't know how it would do. But maybe, like you said, maybe they're making it more efficient.
And for those that like to put on a grip, it's gonna have an additional accessory that you can buy, battery grip. I never liked that on a mirrorless. I never liked having vertical grips on my Z6s. Well, I never had a Z6 II to have one, but you can buy an aftermarket Z6 battery grip that just it's like it doesn't have all the features of an original Z6 II battery grip, but um, I don't know. You can have more batteries, use more batteries with that battery grip. So if you're doing video, you'd have a lot of power there. Probably last you the whole day, depending on what you're shooting.
Oh, totally.
8K.
I'm the same on vertical groups too. I feel like just get some aftermarket batteries and carry them around. Then you're not having that really bulky form factor. And I mean, you're wanting to run on a gimbal too. I mean, battery grip, it's just going to make it too heavy of a payload to balance easily.
It also depends. Like if I'm sporting a Z9 and then I'm doing weddings and I want a second body, I think that vertical grip is not going to affect me because it's probably going to be the same kind of form as a Z9. But if I'm just going out and I'm shooting with my Z8 and I want something smaller than usual, something lighter, I don't want a vertical grip. But you never know. That vertical grip might be kick ass. So we don't know.
Yeah, exactly. This is all theoretical, folks.
Yeah,
None of us have this in our hands. So, and that's
yeah.
okay. That's okay. We can speculate.
As of today, guys, there's no Z8. There is no Z8. This is all rumors, but all signs point to a Z8 coming very, 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 very soon. So 8K 60 recording, Joe. I mean, that's crazy good,
About that.
K 60
No, that'd
recording.
be nuts. Even if it's with a slight crop, I feel like that's still pretty impressive, especially at that price point. Like that's
But you know what, dude? Like, I'm gonna be honest with you, man. All these specs, right? Like, I've owned the Z9 for what? Like, almost. It's gonna be what are we in March? It's over a year now. I've owned the Z9, and I've never shot like hardly ever have I shot 30 frames per second. Okay, I've never shot. I've only for a couple of videos I've reviewed the Z9 with the 8K recording. Professionally, I've never shot an 8K, so I really don't want to like I don't have the processing power. I don't have the computing power. I don't want to sit there for hours on end rendering a 10-minute clip.
oh,
So
100%. I feel like the 8K just comes in a bit more for like reframing, at least for me. Like that's the only sort of area I could see there being a benefit. Because I mean, yeah, like even now, like 4K is barely becoming the new 1080. Like I don't know, that's a 1080 display behind me. I've only got one 4K display, which is the one I'm looking at you on right now. So no, I think like it's not a must have. Like for me, like at least for the Z6 III, like 6K, that's plenty. Like if they could have 6K in that, I feel like, you know, that would get a lot of folks. But you know, for the most part, like I would only shoot in 8K if I was doing like an animal shoot and I wanted to be able to crop in later. But again, you know, like you said, that's on a 4K timeline. That's not even, you know, editing or
Yeah.
rendering in 8K.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I'm telling you, man, I've even used like 50% of the features that the Z9 has. I haven't even got to. I haven't even touched. In a professional setting, you know, it's nice to have all these things that we talk about. Oh, my camera has this, my camera has that. Do you actually use this thing on your shoots? Like honestly, look at me in the face, any photographer, and tell me you use all the features of the Z9 in your professional shoots. I doubt it, you know.
Yeah, no,
So
100%. I mean, the higher frame rates, I think the only thing that comes in handy, but even that, like, you're not going to shoot high frame rate in a super high resolution, right? Like, at least on my Z6, I've got my manual, which I keep it at 4K 24 for generally everything, and then I just have one of my custom 3 set to 1080 120 if I want to shoot a bit of slow mo of something going by. That's it. Like, I don't need much else than that.
I think a lot of it is, I think a lot of it has to do with just knowing that your camera has it, so you could, you know, talk to your Canon and Sony brothers and say, hey, you know what? We're finally here, you know. You know, there's no more ragging on Nikon. So, um, I mean, bragging rights, I guess, to have 8K 60 internal RAW. I mean, like I said, I don't shoot. I'm not a filmmaker, so I don't need it. You know, it's good that my camera has it. But for YouTube stuff like this, whenever every time you do use my Z9, it's straight 10-bit, 265. What else? 4K one. Yeah, I shoot. By the way, I shoot 4K 120 a lot, and this is comes in handy because slow motion. I shoot. I would love the camera, the Z8, to have all these 10-bit and 4K 120. I'd also want the Z8 to have 1080 240. You know, let me ask you a question because I'm no expert in the tech aspect of cinema cameras, but is it possible to implement 1080 240 via firmware update?
Oh man, that's a tricky one. I feel like if it's a if if it doesn't have a shutter, like if there's no mechanical shutter, I feel like that could be possible. I think if it's a physical shutter, then there might be some mechanical limitations to what it can do. But I think if it's a silent shutter, I think that could be possible. I'll say it can though, because I don't know 100%. But you know, I feel like that's something that could happen, and I feel like that would be a really great frame rate to shoot at. Like you could slow it down to like 10% and not have
That's
to be
awesome.
choppy.
Yeah, man. So that'd be great to have. But that 9 megapixel EVF, I'm looking forward to because that kind of stuff, I would love to have. You
Oh,
know,
totally. It's something you notice in your day to day use.
yeah. So as of now, those are probably the only kind of like latest rumors that I'm looking at here. The Z8. There's one article just published, Nikon rumors. The Nikon Z8 is rumored to be approximately the same size as the Nikon D850. That was yesterday. And then there's one more Nikon Z8 size comparison with the Z7, the C7, and the Z9. So they basically put up a chart comparing the sizes. So yeah, that's cool. Let's see. They did a mock up on the Z8 there. That's funny.
Yeah,
But
and I like the guy who wrote the article too, because he even says, like, man, like, this is my best guess. This is me bringing research from different people into one place. None of this is confirmed. This is all just speculation. And I really love when a rumor site of all things kind of owns that and says, like, you know, this isn't biblical. Like, this isn't gospel in terms of Nikon speak, right? This is just best guess from as
yeah,
many resources as
we'll
gathered.
watch Nikon rumors totally like get it wrong.
I hope not, because some of these specs are great.
Can you imagine like the backlash? Like, can you imagine like all these all channels like you and mine and all these other YouTube
Chuck.
channels? They go off of this stuff, right? We feed off this kind of rumors forums, and then for Nikon to totally like troll everybody, and then just come out with like a camera that's like just like underwhelms us. I'd hate to see that, right?
I mean, did you see the newest special edition of the ZFC that just got released?
No, what is that?
That's it.
That's
I'm
cool,
kidding.
man. That's cool. For those of you just listening and driving, Joe pulled up a old, what is that, a old film
Zeiss
camera?
icon.
Oh, okay.
That one of
You're
the
funny.
old foldables, medium format.
Yeah. So one thing about these rumor sites, like I guess a guy named Peter runs a Nikon rumor site. I don't know him personally. Um, one thing about these sites is they have their sources. He doesn't post anything unless it was, it's pretty solid at times. I think he has a pretty good hit rate. I think 80% of the time he's right. But again, it's not called Nikon rumors for a reason, right? It's called Nikon rumors for a reason. So it's a rumor.
NikonFacts.com. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I just wish
But
Nikon would
it,
change. What was that?
oh, I was going to say, it is nice. I think I was about to say the same thing as you. It's nice that they at least give us something, because I think that's really where the problem lies. Is like there is no public roadmap for us, right? I don't know. I mean,
Right.
obviously Nikon doesn't owe us anything, obviously, but as a consumer, it's kind of, I don't know. It's like nice to get excited about a brand and a camera drop and to get all the hype and the build up, right? And I don't
Mhm.
feel like they necessarily do that regularly, which is totally fine. If you want that, Nikon's probably not the brand for you, but it would be cool if they maybe did a bit more of that and just threw us a bone.
You're right. I mean, it's good to have, something out there. They're a very secretive company. If you now noticed, they're sometimes stuck in their old ways. Their marketing department, I have another thing with them that the USA, Nikon USA, I wish they would listen to us a little bit more. And I'm open all the time. I always say in my videos, guys, if you want to contact me, contact me because I have so many good ideas for Nikon USA that, I see that other regions, they're doing such an excellent job. Um, but Nikon USA, I guess it's such a big market. There's so many content creators out there in the United States that it's hard to cater to a lot of these folks.
No, 100%. I mean, yeah, I've reached out to Nikon Canada a handful of times, and I don't know, just never really heard back, right? Like I tried to join MPS and I've only got my one Z6, and it was like, oh, you have to have two pro camera bodies, and I was like, well, I am a professional, but I only have one. Like,
You should have said, "Hey, have you seen my videos that I produce?" You
yeah,
know, I,
honestly, well, I sent them my portfolio and stuff, and yeah, they just never got back to me. I tried calling, left a
I talk.
message. No,
You should say, "Shit, man, I talk about your freaking company more than anybody, and I promote you guys, and God knows how many bodies and lenses you guys sold because of my channel. You want, you know what I mean?
yeah, yeah, it's just
Yeah, I know.
like work with us, right? We're not trying to work. I think that's the thing is, I feel like sometimes people get really defensive about Nikon as a brand and are like, "Oh, like you're attacking Nikon and you're not working with them." It's like, "No, no. We're here to work with them. If they communicate with us and try to, partner with us on some stuff, it would be great, right? Like we are supportive of the brand. It's not about taking shots at them. It's just about being real and saying like, "Hey, like this isn't perfect." And it's okay. No brand is perfect, right? I think the minute you say your camera company's completely killing it and it's 10 out of 10, like roses and daisies, it's not a real company.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. I mean, here's the thing, man. With me, it's like, yeah, I use Nikon or Nikon. I use them and I prefer them, right? This is my camera of choice. And I've bought into the company. I have so much gear, and I love everything about it. The color science. I mean, obviously, they're not. No camera is perfect, right? But I don't have a dog in this fight. Like I'm not an ambassador. I'm not a representative of Nikon. I don't get I don't get any royalties from the brand. So sometimes I think to myself, I go, you know, do I want to limit myself and my channel to just Nikon, right? Because I could talk about all these other brands, and I am going to talk about it. See, there's one thing you can talk like you did. You made a video on Canon the other day. It was excellent. And by the way, that was a beautiful space. I love where you were.
Thanks.
But
Yeah, the library's cool.
very nice. So, like, you got to expand, because there's so far you can get with viewership with Nikon. I'm just being honest, guys. I love the brand, and this is my brand of choice. When I do shoots professionally, when I do my videos on YouTube, when I do anything that has to do with photography for my channel or my clients, I prefer Nikon, right? I prefer that brand. But don't limit yourself. Go out and see. Like I'm thinking about checking out an R3. I'm really thinking about buying one. I'm really thinking about buying like used secondhand Sonys just so I can have the top cameras for all three manufacturers, the top major manufacturers. Um, like I said, in the past, I used to own an A7. I used to own an A7S 1 and 2 back in back in 2015, 2016. But I sold all my Canon gear, I sold my Sony gear, I sold my Leica gear. But yeah, I mean, I don't think I should limit myself. Now, if Nikon knocks on my door and says, "Hey, we really like what you're doing. Let's take it up a notch," what, like you said earlier in the podcast, you go, let's help each other. What can, like, I'm helping you guys. What am I getting, right? How are you going to help
Mutually
me
beneficial
succeed?
relationship.
How are you going to make me succeed? How are you going to make me ultimately make more money? Because man, they're making money. All the reps that work for them make money. They're not sitting there because they love it. I mean, yeah, they love it. I'll take that back. They love it, but they're not sitting there for their health. They're sitting there to make a paycheck, right?
100%. There's got to be a trade.
So when they sit there, like they probably laugh at a lot of us, like these folks on YouTube that have gear brand wars, where you read the comments like people being nasty about a certain brand, or you're a fool for using this, you're stupid for doing that, Nikon sucks, Canon sucks. These reps probably are like, they're laughing, these owners and
Yeah.
people that are associated with the brands, they're probably laughing all the way to the bank. They're saying, look at these
They don't
clowns.
care, right? I mean, like
But
they're sitting there thinking, well, you can say what you want, but I'm being paid to rep this brand. What are you doing? Right? I think that's the thing that's funny. And also to your point, just with people getting really nasty in the comments about different brands, it's like, dude, shoot with what you enjoy, whatever that is. Just make badass content. Like whatever it is you love doing, find a brand that you can buy into, get into their ecosystem, and enjoy it. Right? Like I was shooting Fuji before I came over to Nikon, and I loved my Fuji. I had an XT20. It was a nice little crop sensor camera, and if I was going with a crop camera again, I would probably go back to Fuji. Right? So like there's no bad blood between me and the brand. I still love their products, and I think the XH2 is a pretty banging camera.
yeah, I had I've had all the X100 line except the V's. I sold that one. I had the XT3, the XT2, XH1. I had the original X100, the original X Pro 1. That was my love affair with Fuji back in the day. But I think the furthest I'd take brand wars, I mean, again, don't get me wrong, right? Like I love going back and forth with people. But when they start getting nasty about things, the furthest I take brand wars is like saying, okay, you know what? Uh, Whoever I'm talking to, let's say Steve or whatever, Jacob, uh, I don't think Canon's for me. I don't think Nikon's for me, or Canon's battery doesn't last too long, or Nikon's, video is not that good or whatever. You know what I mean? Like it's not good for me, right? That's probably the furthest I would take a statement. I wouldn't say nasty things like what we see online.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think like that's where the energy should remain as passion, right? Passion and positivity, right? Because in the end of the day, like you have the brand you like and enjoy it, right? Don't let anyone dissuade you from using it. And, have a good time with it. And yeah, engaging in debate and having fun, shooting back and forth, it can be a good time. But yeah, these days it just seems like people get so defensive to the point of animosity and just saying nasty things. It's like, come on, folks, like, let's just have a good time and
Yeah,
shoot the shit.
when they get personal, like that's not cool. But you know what? At the same time, being unbiased is the best thing. I mean, like for example, if a camera just outright sucks, right? If it just like it totally like it's a dog, I'd say it. I'll prove it. Here's why. Here's why this camera is not that great in low light, or you know, you might love it to death because that's the only camera you have, but reality is reality sometimes where, like the X Pro 1 wasn't that great in low light, or, there's other cameras that I would choose over that camera. That said, that camera is awesome because it's got an OVF and an EVF. So it's cool.
Yeah, no, totally. Oh, not a lot of cameras like that.
Yeah, you flip the switch and all of a sudden you're seeing like the OVF with all these like laser blue kind of lines and all over the OVF. And I was like, wow, what is this futuristic camera? It's cool.
Like
But
VR.
but pretty much all the flagships though, and all the mid-tier cameras are all great. This whole effing there's this whole fucking debate about like, you know, uh like autofocus tracking, sports fast action stuff. I don't shoot that stuff. I don't shoot birds in flight. If I do, it's for fun, but for me to be passionate about how that focus just tracks the bird's eye, no, I'll be passionate about how that focus tracks my client's eye, human, but that's just personal preference.
Yeah, no, it comes down to the type of content you create or what your work is. For me, it's, I use my camera for a bit of my marketing work, and aside from that, it's mostly for vlogging. And I have the occasional client that'll hire me to do something, but it's never, NASCAR or Formula One or anything like that. And even if it was, I trust my camera enough to get the shots that I want, even with adapted glass. I'm not shooting in full auto usually. I'm usually on a tripod. If it's sports, I've kind of got an idea of the frame that I want, and I set it up in manual, and then I do a burst once they come over that jump or whatever it is.
Hey, is there something you would not shoot? Like a genre of photography?
I mean, honestly, like people photography in general is something I avoid. I like
really
nature.
Like portraits.
Yeah, I don't do portrait. I don't do portrait work. I used to a long time ago.
That's my thing.
I never got. Yeah, no, it's dope. Like, it's an awesome form of artistry. But for me, it's always been like products, services. That's kind of like what I enjoy shooting, I guess.
That thing you did with the was it the you were at a wine cellar or something? Beer factory?
Oh, the distillery. Yeah.
That was cool, man. See, man,
Yeah.
I'm so jealous of your backyard. Like, look at the dog sled video you put out. Like, I was like, what the heck, dude? This guy's like my dream setup right there, shooting that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's fun. One, I mean, I don't always get paid for those things, right? Like, I'll just go out and make a trade with them where it's like, you guys use my content on your website, then you let me come in, right? And actually, that was what was cool about the distillery was I did that for them about 5-6 months ago, and recently they just hired me to do a video for them. So it was kind of like a neat like segue into it. So I feel like that's another thing as well, is like as a semi-professional or hobbyist content creator, you shouldn't undervalue your work, but also take an opportunity sometimes and create some cool content. Just find a way for it to benefit you. It might not be financially, but it might be that you get to put that video in your portfolio, host it on your website. They start using it, word of mouth, right? Like it's,
Yeah.
there can be value in it, even if you don't get a monetary exchange every single time.
Yeah. No, definitely. Especially if you're trying to build your channel up. Content like that, when I watched your distillery video, it reminded me of a guy by the name of, maybe you haven't heard of this guy, but he has a very small channel on YouTube, and he's in Canada as well. He's Canadian. His name is Peter McKinnon. Maybe you haven't heard of him.
Oh, who's that guy?
He has a very,
Kittens.
he has,
Very small channel.
he has a very small channel on YouTube. Yeah, that guy's awesome.
Oh, he's awesome. He's dope.
That guy. If there was one person that I would love to meet and just hang out with, it'd be Peter McKinnon, man. By the way, guys, you're watching and you're listening to Photology Episode 1, uncut, raw, unfiltered. We are gonna have guests here in the future, so looking forward to that. This is just a little warm-up party, just for you guys to get to know this podcast. But I'm gonna try to get as many cool guests as I can on here. And here's one thing,
Peter McKinnon. Kidding.
Yeah, I mean, I wish, yeah, we can get him. But here's one thing that I said when the idea of this podcast came together. I was like, I don't really want to talk about photography. We'll talk about photography, but we'll tie it into like everyday kind of life. So you mentioned that you don't really shoot, you don't like to deal with people and things like that. That's interesting. Would you consider yourself more of like a photo guy or a video guy?
I would say I'm video first, 100%. Just even with my work, so maybe I should give some context to the viewers. I work full time in marketing for an energy company here in Alberta, and content creation's an element of my job. It's not everything. I get to make digital ads and do that whole kit and caboodle and rock TikTok, but it's everything from accounting to project management to pitch decks. There's a lot more to my work than just content. And, I'm lucky that I get to use my camera pretty regularly, but it ain't everything. And I'd say that overall, video typically is the format that most of my work is required in. But how about you, Vahagn? Are you photo first or video first?
Photo first. Well, my client work is all photography. So photo first, but I love video, man. I'm getting into video more and more. I mean, yeah, look, I have a YouTube channel that I do video only. So, I mean, to create it and to edit it, and it's all video stuff. But the reason why I started talking about, not only do I want to talk about photography, but tie it into everyday life. I want to ask you something. You live in Canada, right? So, are you kind of political, or you stay away from that?
I mean, I'm political when it comes to certain topics, and other than that, I'm apolitical. But I think it depends on the topic. And
hey, man, I know I'm gonna get shit for this, but I kind of don't like your prime minister, buddy.
I don't either.
The guy's like weirdo, bro.
I know. We call him True Bro instead of Trudeau because he used to be a part-time snowboard instructor back in the day.
The hell was that with all the trucks? I mean, what was all that about?
So that came from Alberta, actually. So that's actually a good question. The Canadian political landscape. So obviously, U.S. You guys have got the Democrats as well as the Republicans, right? That's kind of like the two parties. We've got three major parties. We've got the Conservatives and the Liberals, right? Actually, I'll go from right to left. We've got the Conservative Party, which is like our version of the Republicans, but it's more like the Democrats because like our entire political spectrum is a bit further left wing than the U.S. You got the Conservatives, then you've got the Liberals, then you've got the NDP, which is like our baseline socialist party. So the trucker movement actually came from Alberta originally, and it was sort of a right-wing conservative backlash, COVID restrictions. And they went all across the country, and then they got to Ottawa. And I mean, people can have their own beliefs on vaccinations. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and say like one
no,
way
I get it.
Other ways the wrong way. But they were very what they did was very dangerous. I'll leave it at that. It was very dangerous when they got to Ottawa, and the federal government's inability to act on it quickly and show the rule of law hindered the rule of law in Canada.
Wait, when you say
I would say.
dangerous, do you mean like when they block the roads and stuff?
Yeah, they blocked the
Okay.
roads, they shut shit down, and I just protesting's protesting. I'm not against freedom of speech, but what they did wasn't protesting; it was an
You know what
invasion,
they
right?
you know what they should have done is to make a statement. Stop working. You know,
Yeah, there
don't
you go. Go
deliver
on
the
strike.
don't deliver the goods. You know, don't block the traffic. Don't do all that stuff. Don't cause harm to people's ways. You know, like have the streets open, but there's a lot of emergencies, people having like heart attacks, they got to get to emergency room, this and that. Don't do all that, but stop working. If you want to protest, stop, get together. Like I tell my Uber friends, you know, you guys are complaining about Uber, but you keep driving for them. Get together. If you're pissed off about the prices that they pay you, by the way, I think that they're using these drivers. I mean, I think Uber is like underpaid. They're basically like, it's like a Ponzi scheme. Like they're basically like using their own cars, their own tires, their own maintenance, and they're getting paid crap. And after they have to do their taxes and what's left over, and the gas too. I didn't even mention the gas. It's bullshit.
Brutal right now.
It's bullshit. So you want to make a statement for Uber? Get together and stop driving in a major market. I guarantee you, Uber will turn around and pay attention. So. But yeah, no, I was just asking because you guys got a lot of press when when that was happening, and that was pretty. You know, sometimes a situation like that makes for good content, right?
Yeah, well, it was interesting. There were a few Canadian YouTubers that kind of jumped on the topic, and some of
Yeah.
them lost subscribers, some of them gained subscribers. You know, and I mean, for me, like when it comes to my own life, like I'll get political if it's something that's like in my day to day. That's why I typically leave the politics out of my content, just because I
Yeah.
find that in today's political landscape, we're talking about people getting heated on camera brands. It's disgusting out there
No,
for
I know.
political conversations.
Oh, I know. I know. It's dude. The way I look at it is this, man. I'm not really into politicians or anything like that. Like, but if it affects my everyday today, if that starts affecting my what I like my wallet, you know, then I'd say something because if they're gonna bring out policy after policy about bullshit, basically, I'm gonna express myself because if it's affecting my day to day,
Yeah, and people
um,
should express themselves exactly, right? It comes down to not being afraid to talk about some of the harder topics and the things that are hitting the average consumer, right? Because we are
but
living in an economic environment where that is very real.
But here's the thing, though. Like here in America, they label you as okay, either you're right or left. Like okay, I'm against this, I'm right, or I'm against that, I'm left. Like, no, it's not like
Same
that
here.
for me. I'm independent. I like to think of, I like to know. I express myself what's right and wrong. What I think. Do I think the gas prices are way too high in California? Sure, I do.
Hell
Do I
yeah.
think that this crap about summer blend, winter blend, the pollution, like I don't know, man, don't get me started with this crap. I mean, it's just bullshit sometimes. Why in California do we get taxed the most? Why? Yeah, we get the beaches, we got the weather, but why in California though? Why can't like other states have no sales tax? We have the highest freaking everything. So it's like buying like you go and buy a $5,000 camera right now, right? You're gonna pay 10%.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because it's the same in Canada, right? We've got different taxation province to province,
Yeah,
and Alberta's the least taxed province in the country, right? Like we're like the Texas of Canada. That's sort of the easiest way to kind of give you a picture of kind of like what our economy's like. It's oil, beef. That's kind of where we sit, and there's a thing that exists in Canada that Justin Trudeau's father created, Pierre Trudeau. He was the one of the OG prime ministers that had like a really big following back in the day. He created this thing called equalization payments. So every province pays into it. So if a certain province makes more, they pay more into it. So every province is equally paid. Well, Alberta's always well, typically paid historically the most into this payment fund. But when oil crashed, those payments stayed the same. So we're still paying the same equalization payments, even though we make less than some of the provinces that pay less into it now. So that's the big point of contention with Albertans. And that's the thing that's interesting about marketing in Alberta to Albertans is it's such a different market from the rest of Canada because, you know, that sort of strong Albertan mentality of like us versus the rest of the country is definitely a thing. It is something that exists in a lot of Albertans' minds, and it's it's interesting.
Last time I was in Canada was in '99, and it was a
Wow,
great.
where were you visiting? Toronto or?
Yeah, it was Ontario, Niagara Falls, and that area, and I loved it, man. 0 degree weather, clean, the country. You know, we traveled all across America, and we went up to Toronto, and you know, it was great. But that was like, damn, dude, that was like 24 years ago. So things have changed. Before we get into our last topic, real quick, I just want to say that, you know, it's everybody has their own beliefs, everybody has their own, you know, opinions. People shouldn't get attacked for thinking differently than you, right? I just hate that about this mob mentality about, you know, oh, you're this, oh, automatically you're this, you know, you grew your
Yeah,
group.
like you were saying, the left right thing, right? I mean, the way
Stupid.
I look at it is anyone that just blindly says I vote this without saying why they vote for that party isn't actually paying attention to what the party's saying, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm fiscally conservative, but I'm socially liberal. Why can't I be both? I don't. My value system doesn't exist in either party, right? I feel like it's probably the same for you, where it's like certain parties or certain things. You're like, okay, this, great. This, no. Okay, great. The other party's doing this, right? So it's a game of push and pull, but people just blankly say, "Oh, I am this." It's like, well, why are you this?
There's just a lack of common sense thinkers these days. Like common sense, man. Like, what's your problem? Like these people, like just use common sense. But that's people that just number one, they don't use common sense. They don't know how to use common sense. They're not smart enough. Or number two, they don't know how to reason. People don't know how to reason these days. Like, hey, let me listen to you. Let me see what you have to say, you know, and then I'll make, you know, maybe you have a good point. Let me listen to you, right? Oh no, 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 you're wrong. You're wrong. Sometimes in these camera wars, you get that kind of, you know, oh, I kind of know, okay, you know, this is this and that. So, um, hey guys, I told you this was kind of uncensored, unfiltered. So we're just talking about life and tying it into photography. But I can't wait to get into like people's minds and put them in the hot seat here and ask them, you know, not controversial because I don't want to make them feel uncomfortable, but you know, I always loved Howard Stern. You know, Howard Stern and Joe
Howard
Rogan.
Stern's a G.
So this guy is like has these celebrities, right? Celebrities sitting there and just asking them questions about like sex and like how many get girls you've been with, and like he's asking like who's I remember he had Conan O'Brien on a long time ago, and he was asking him when he used to date Gwyneth Paltrow. Yeah, he was asking, well, did you have sex with her? This and that. Like he was so uncomfortable. Like, but he's smart. He knows how to come back. You know, he's very witty, like Joe Conan. And by the way, I like Conan more than I don't like Jimmy Kimmel. I hate that guy. Anyway, so
Jimmy Kimmel's really fake.
yeah, he is, right? I'm not the only one, right? I love Conan O'Brien. I don't know why that they dogged him, man. I don't know why they canceled him on that show. But yeah. All right, man. So let me let's jump into this other topic here. You know, there's an article on Petapixel that really got my attention. Photographer's tricked into shooting his sister's wedding. So how does this happen? You know, let me tell you a story. The article's on Petapixel for those of you that want to check it out. But I can relate to this. But real quickly, let me just read this. It says, I guess he was tricked into shooting a wedding. I don't know. I was tricked once by a client. Client calls me, tells me that, hey, can you shoot my daughter's birthday? You know, she's like turning 1, baby birthday. Sure. Where is it gonna be? How many people? You know, this and that. hours. So she tells me, the mom tells me, well, it's gonna be at the house. It's gonna be 4 hours. No big deal. We're just having a few people over. Yeah, I didn't question her because when she said house, few people, 4 hours, 1 year birthday, I didn't think about it too much. I said, okay, well, this is the price, and I'll do it. She started negotiating with me about the price. Started saying like, hey, it's at a house. Not gonna be too many people there. It's no big deal, right? It's a pizza party, blah blah blah. So I said, okay, I'll book it, no problem. This is like 3 weeks away, so I'm like, chances of me getting a gig that day are slim to none. So I booked it for a discount, right? So a day before, she calls me and she goes, well, the change of plans. We decided to, you know, get a banquet hall, and we decided that it was just too. We invited so many people that couldn't fit in our house anymore. So we're gonna get a banquet hall. We're gonna get a band. We're gonna get all the. It turned out to a real event. So from original gig was from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. All of a sudden, it's a banquet hall, so it's an evening gig now, right?
Yeah.
Then I'm like, okay. And then she lays the big one on me, saying, "Oh, by the way, church is at 3 o'clock." I'm like, "Church? It's at a one. It's a birthday. What church, right?" Oh, we decided to do the baptism the same day. You know, so the birthday turned into a baptism all of a sudden. So here we go. Here's me saying, "Okay, wait, stop it there, buddy. Stop it there. Like, you totally changed the gig on me. The birthday party 4 hour house thing turned into a church baptism with 200 people, 3 to 12 midnight. So those are two different gigs. You know, so I'm sorry. I can't get anybody last second. I'm like, sorry, you got to pay me my baptism rate. This is not a birthday house party rate. So that's my story. I mean, that's one thing. That's one story that I can think of. There's been many times where I've been duped with clients, and this story right here on Petapixel, photographer tricked into shooting sister's wedding. That title reminded me of that. So
That's awesome.
yeah. So has there been times where you've kind of been, not told the truth about client work?
Oh, 100%. I mean, just professionally in general, for sure, right? The majority of my work doesn't necessarily fall into the main topic of this uh, uh, podcast, but I can think of one that does fall into this one that's photography, videography focused. When I first graduated university, like that was right when oil tanked in Alberta, and as a history graduate student, I was basically a very overqualified barista on a good day. So I thought, I'm getting out of here. I'm moving overseas. So I moved over to South Korea, and I was working as a teacher. And it was when I was working as a teacher, I started getting more into videography, photography. Like I'd always been into taking photos and video, and I had a D7100. It was like my first sort of like semi-professional camera. And yeah, basically time went by. Started out trying to get some gigs and stuff, and I learned the valuable lesson of don't search for clients on Craigslist. What you're gonna find on there is not good, and it was a very casual shoot, and it was horrible. So I found this person and said, "Hey, like I need to do a university portfolio video to share to get into another school." And I was like, "All right, cool. Like that's a pretty easy gig. Like we'll just meet up at your school. We'll do some recording of you talking, and that's it. Script it. Have your spots kind of planned out, and then we'll just kind of walk around the university and get the shots." Well, we get there. She scripted nothing, and she has pretty bad camera fear, right? Like of being on camera. So she's looking at me, and I'm like,
What do I
"No, you
do?
paid me $100 for this shit. Like this is too much." So we end up spending about 6 hours walking around this university trying to find spots. And she's like, "Oh, I want a running shot over there." So it was me running on a gimbal, like just crazy. "Oh, can you also do some photos too?" "Oh, sure. Let me get on that." So get all the content and get back to my buddy's place because him and I were going to edit it together. Because at that point I didn't know how to edit. So he was rocking on Premiere Pro for me. And I kid you not, we had to give her 12 different drafts before she finally paid us. It was like the
$100.
13th draft. Yeah, for $100 between the two of us. It was $50 each. So like
Jeez.
that was kind of my first like paid gig, and yeah, it was
That's why
humbling.
you that's why you don't shoot for people. Like that's why you don't like humans.
Yeah, that's why you don't search for clients on Craigslist. Like that's the moral of the story.
Yeah, Craigslist used to be great. You know, Craigslist used
Yeah,
to be
that
good,
got
but
weird.
now it's like, yeah, Craigslist, no. But you know what? Here's one thing. You might find others, like you might meet people through these kind of gigs, you know? Like saying, "Hey, you know, one time I took a gig from a shady character and I really didn't want to take the gig, but it was kind of like do it for me now for a discount and then in the future I'll pay you your full price kind of deal." So I took it, and then I met a bunch of people like on that shoot. Like they loved my work, and I got so many other gigs from that original jackass that hired me. And by the way, that jackass was lying. He really didn't call me and book me. See, what happens is sometimes when it's time for them to hire somebody, whoever would give him a big discount, they'd go to. You know, he knows that next time I was going to charge him full price. He didn't call me back. And then I check out his the next video or photo that he had on his website from another photographer. I'm like, okay, there you go. Now you know who's good and who's mediocre, right?
Yeah,
So, but
exactly.
I got a lot of gigs from that. I got a lot of gigs from that like I said, jackass. But but yeah, man, like it's crazy, man, out there. You know, you just gotta as a beginner, you know, content creator or someone that's offering services, you got to kind of like use your best judgment sometimes, you know. That's one thing that I kind of like when clients try to, you know, take you for a ride, you know, and try to like be sneaky about things, you know, like I don't appreciate that, you know. You know, you live and you learn. Hey, you live. This is the first episode, so it's gonna get better after this. But yeah, I'm planning on having guests on here. Interesting conversations moving forward. But yeah, interesting times we're living in with photography. The reason why I say that is because you know the economy's not doing too great right now. Like people are really suffering out there. They have money, you know, like stock market sucks. The housing situation in America, the house prices, the interest rates are up, you know, everything is just crap right now, right? But yet photographers buy these expensive cameras. The work has definitely slowed down for wedding photography, for me and for a lot of my friends because we talk, right? Um, Recently I was talking to a friend of mine. He runs a banquet hall and he was telling me that prices per person are skyrocketed, you know. They're charging double almost, and people are having less parties these days. So fewer parties. What does that do to vendors? Well, the budget's not as good anymore, right? Yeah, the top dog is always going to have work. The top dog is always going to be busy because he's like the number one in the market. Of course, he's going to be busy, but everybody else, it affects him. And it probably affects the top dogs too. You know, before they used to charge 10, 15K. Now they probably can't do that anymore. So it's tough world we live in. But what I'm trying to say is that the economy is not doing too good. But then again, we have all these camera manufacturers coming out with all these latest expensive lenses, cameras, and people are buying them. So what does that tell me? That tells me that a lot of hobbyists, a lot of guys that just love to shoot, a lot of retirees, a lot of people that have nothing to do with making money with photography are buying this camera gear. I'm excluding all the sports shooters and all the guys that cover news and all that stuff, games and stuff. But how many of those are there in the world, and how many regular Joes, no pun intended, but regular guys out there are just buying cameras just to go shoot their kids or go shoot a bird, you know? So,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's interesting, right? Like the economy continually changes, but the addiction of consumerism is something that constantly lasts, right? Like that
Yeah.
capitalist drive to always get the newest thing out, right? It's insane. And things also aren't made like they used to, right? Like products back in the day were made to last 10, 15, 20 years. And now these days things are just made to last until the next thing comes out, which is usually 6 to 7 or even 8 months later. Unless you're a
Well,
Nikon shooter. In which case, if you have your camera, you're gonna be holding on to that puppy for a long
hey,
time.
I hope not. I really hope not. I really hope that my Z9 lasts for a long time because,
Oh, it will. It's
um,
made, and that's the difference with Nikon cameras. They're so well made. Like when you hold a Nikon, you're like, man, like this is solid. It's built well. Like it. I don't know.
hey,
There's no other camera that feels like that.
here's one thing though: the Z6 that I own, I've owned it since 2018, and I've like heavy usage on it. There's heavy usage on it, and that thing is just still going and it still feels new. The knobs, everything still feels good, you know. So this camera right here. So,
Yeah, the
um,
knobs feel good.
yeah. So like, wow, you know. But we'll see. Will the Z9 or the Z6s or the Z5s stand the test of time? The Z6 was the earliest adoption of mirrorless for Nikon, which was 2018. Actually, no, if you want to get technical, it was the J1, but nobody bought that camera. Um, yeah,
I
then
bought the J2 and it was a unique camera.
yeah. I mean, I
I
never owned that
liked it.
thing.
It was fun.
I don't think they marketed that thing correctly. Anyway, um, just like everything else, you know, Nikon, call me, you know.
It's a trend.
But yeah, I mean, that's what it is, you know. Like we'll stand the test of time. We'll see what happens. But hey, Joe, this was a great podcast, episode one. I'll tell you like now. Why don't you send us off with like a nice impersonation, something like something you want to do.
Let me think. I'm mostly specialized in old white men. That's kind of like my niche.
By the
Okay,
way,
why don't we do God, I feel like maybe Liam Neeson. Do we
all
like
right,
Liam Neeson or Michael Caine? Which one would you prefer?
let's do Liam.
I've got a very important thing to tell you. I've got a very specific set of Nikon marketing skills. I will look for the new Nikon body. I will find it, and they won't produce it.
That's great. I like that guy. You know,
Yeah,
that's cool.
he's a G. I like how his newest movie, like he always plays an old dude with a gun, and in his newest movie, it's literally called Memory, where he's got Alzheimer's and he still has a gun. Like,
He always plays this old dude, right? But he always gets all the hot chicks.
yeah, he's a badass. Like as far as I'm concerned, he's his pieces. I mean, hell, he was Raz Al Ghul. Like he's an awesome dude. But maybe just to wrap it up, folks, if you're listening to this podcast, please make sure you hit that like button and subscribe both to Vahagraphy and as well to Joe Man's Land. We have to use the excessive deep voice in order to keep you interested. Oh yeah.
That's awesome. All right, Joe. Yeah, like he said, subscribe to Joe Man's Land on YouTube and Vahography. This was episode one of Photology. Thursday mornings, 9 a.m. We'll see you next week for episode number 2. And if you like what you hear here, guys, like, subscribe, and share. Share this video with your photography buddies. And hey, if you can't sit here and watch us and listen to us, you can maybe put it on later on. If you don't get to watch the premiere on 9 a.m. Pacific time Thursday, you can always replay it anytime in your car. Just throw on the YouTube app, press play, look for Photology.
And if you are a platinum member, we will send a peregrine falcon with a memory card strapped to its leg. I'm kidding, no. But for sure, folks, there's lots of great ways to consume this content. You know, find the best way that you can. You miss an episode, no harm, no foul. These are not the kind of episodes where it's like a storyline and they develop over time. We're just shooting the round table every single week. And, you know, if y'all want to get in there and also help drive our content, please comment or hit us up and tell us some of the things you would like us to discuss or some of the topics that you think could be fun. Because, again, this is not just photography. This is life. And we want to be as real as we can be. We're just two dudes talking about it and two different places. So, you know, keep the comments fun and light and tell us what you guys want to talk about.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. You know, leave it in the comment if this is new. This is This is the first episode, so we're feeling things out right now, and we're get new ideas in the future. So leave a comment. What do you want to see? What do you want us to talk about? What guests do you want us to have? And by the way, guys, a lot of people always hit me up when I used to do Vahagraphy Talk. They used to say, "Hey, can you get this guy? Can you get this girl?" It's like, you know what? Email these people. Say, "Hey, I would love for you to come on the show. I want to hear you on the show." Bug these people, bug these guests, and I'll hit them up too. But sometimes they're busy. So, yeah, I can't wait to introduce some guests on here so we can grill them.
Jared Poland, if you're watching this,
Yeah, that guy's
come
not
say
gonna.
hi.
That guy's not gonna come, dude. But I would love to have him, man. Like, hey, you never know, Jared. Hey, you know what, Joe? Never say never, because with him, he's a numbers guy. So if he sees the numbers are right, if the numbers are up there, shit, he'll come. I guarantee you he'll come. If this podcast gets thousands of views every week, the guy will come. So make it happen.
Field of Dreams. Bring
And
the
by the way-
views. He will come.
By the way, yeah, if you want the channel to grow, you want the podcast to grow, share it and we can get better guests. Anyway, thanks for watching. Joe, if there's any last final words.
Make good choices.
Yeah, exactly. Nikon, Canon, Fuji, Sony, reps, call me.
Phase 1, I want you.
Oh yeah, Hasselblad. I want to marry you, Leica. I like me Leica. All right, guys. Rock and roll. We'll see you next week for episode 2 of Photology.
Oh yeah.
Rock and roll.